Light as a feather, stiff as a board. Light as a feather, stiff as a board.
We are the weirdos, mister.
Black as night, erase death from our sight. White as light, mighty hectate make it right.
I myself am strange and unusual. Cast a circle, spark some incense, and grab a cup of tea, because it's time for the Cousins Coven podcast. I'm Sharon.
And this is Wendy. Welcome back to the Coven.
Woo, welcome back.
Yay, we're so excited to have you. Well, this week we were supposed to have a special guest episode, but due to some scheduling conflicts, that's really not going to happen. But instead, we're going to have this cool discussion about the movie behind, or the magic behind the movie The Craft and practical magic. So I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, we're just going to try to take things a little casual today, off the cuff, and have some fun talking about a few of our favorite witchy movies.
Yes, that means we're not going to have any secondary topic. We're just going to have a cauldron topic today.
Yes. So, Wendy, what did you want to talk about today? I know you had some ideas.
Yeah, I actually, I had one thing happen this week nonstop. It was another synchronicity. The number 222 kept popping up.
Nice. What does that mean?
It has to do with balance, peace, and harmony in your life. And I was like, whoa, that's exactly what I've been striving for all week. So I was really excited to kind of get this number. Having balance in my life has been, oh my gosh, it's so trying when I'm trying to balance work and family and the podcast and all the things that I like to do in my life.
I hear ya. Balance has been a struggle for me lately, and it's been the one thing I've been seeking, but it's the more I try chasing it, I don't know, I think I just need to take some time and kind of calm things down.
Sure. I just know for me, I was like, okay, I know for me, I like to try to pack as much as I can in a day.
Oh, yeah.
And so this week it was all about that, finding harmony between all the things that I like to do along with my regular life. And it left me feeling extremely exhausted at the end of the day. So I feel like now it's okay, maybe I don't need to put everything all in one day, like putting all my eggs in one basket, so to speak.
Exactly.
Maybe I need to spread that out a little bit.
I think so. Just take some time to even have self-care is something that I could do more of, and just taking time to slow down.
Yeah,
I think there's this need to have to complete my checklist or even just be productive in order to not feel like a piece of shit at the end of the day. I'm like, wait, I didn't do what I was supposed to. I have all these things on my plate. Why didn't I do that? But, sometimes
right.
I just need a day to chill.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I knew that the new season of Sabrina is up. I didn't even really get to watch anything but the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh man, I hope next week I'm going to be able to do that.
I did watch the first 2 episodes, so I have seen the first one. What did you think? Did you enjoy yourself watching it?
Yes, I watched it today while I was getting everything ready. I was cleaning up my witch closet. That's what I call it. It's just a place where I keep all of my witch supplies, but it was getting out of control. So I took everything out, and while I was organizing everything and falling in love with everything that I have, I was also watching the first episode. So
I love that you mentioned witch closet. I just really treated myself to my new cabinet. And so I was able to get a cute little just glass cabinet from IKEA and put all my witch stuff in it. And it's clear so you can see the crystal ball and the crystals and all that kind of stuff. And it was just
nice.
So pretty. And every time I open it, I get the scent of the incense that are in there and the smell of the Palo Santo.
Right.
And I'm just finally, I have a witchy cabinet. So it was just
Right.
such an upgrade.
Oh.
Such an upgrade.
I love it. I love it so much. That's how I felt. I was going through my stuff and I was like, oh my gosh, I have so many stones. And then I realized I really don't know what all of them are. You know how when you go into the store, you're like, oh, I'm going to get this stone because it looks good. And they usually tell you what
Right.
it is. But a lot of times I don't bring that information
Yeah.
with me. It's not like it comes with a little piece of paper that tells you.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I did the same thing at the Ren Fair, and I was going off of the attributes, and I was like, oh yes, I need this for this and this and this and this and this. And then 5 years later, I was like, what is this stone? I don't even know what it is.
Right. It's so beautiful, but I need to know more about it. Yeah. So I laid out, I've got this little kind of tray, and I just felt for different, like I laid all the stones out, and then I put my hand over them and kind of made my hand go in a circle and felt the energy of the stones and picked out like 12. And I'm going to spend probably the next 3 weeks learning about each and every one of those stones. And then I'll put them back and get 12 more and so on and so forth, so I can learn all about them.
That's awesome. That sounds like a fun like journaling process maybe.
I know, right? That's what I was thinking. And for my birthday, Sean, my husband, he got me the most beautiful Book of Shadows that I don't remember how I said I really wanted a Book of Shadows.
Yes, what does it look like?
It's gorgeous. It's this, he got it off of Amazon, I think, but it's a leather bound book, kind of like yours, but it has the Tree of Life on the front of the cover. And when you open it up, all of the paper, it looks like it's all weathered and
nice.
Jagged edges, like it's handmade paper.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited.
Awesome. I have, like you said, the same one. I did find, like, I think mine was from maybe India. And the handmade paper, I found it that the pen will bleed through to the other side. And so then I started getting angsty about using pen. And then with you do pencil, it's too light. And so I like only committed to filling my book maybe like the first 10 pages, and then I stopped. I had a hard time because I was being a perfectionist.
Oh, gotcha. I don't think I'll be that much of a perfectionist, but yeah, I'll probably, because there's these things that you can put, you know, when you're writing in it, you can always put another piece of paper or a piece of cardstock underneath so that way it doesn't bleed through. So I'll probably do that.
Yeah. I'm excited. It'll be a fun creative process. I have a habit of wanting to start a new Book of Shadows and not commit to finishing one.
Gotcha.
I'm like, I want this one to be all about spells and this one to be all about chakras, but this is my water ritual book. And I'm like, oh my God, Sharon, you got to stop. Like literally being a hoarder and a witch, it's a problem because like you said, you have all these dang crystals. You have like a cabinet full of all this candles. Like
exactly.
The other day,
I do have that too.
Dude, yes, I love it, but it gets to be a lot. And the other day, the power went out, and I wasn't home at the time. But Wayne, my husband, was here by himself, and he had to like go into my altar because he knew that's where all the candles would be. And he like lit a candle, and he was like, "Oh shit, this one says chakra. I can't use this one." And so he had to like use that light to find other like plain candles, and he found like the bag of plain tea lights in the bottom of my altar, and he was using those. And I like come home and I'm like, oh good, you found a candle. I'm so surprised in the dark you were in my witchy cabinet, like finding the like cachet.
He's lucky that something didn't reach out and slap him. Like, this isn't yours.
Oh right, if I had like a magical cabinet, like Beauty and the Beast style.
Right, like a charm. You had a charm around it that's like, if anybody tries to touch my stuff.
Yeah. I'm just like, that's right. We have special candles and they are very meaningful and you cannot use them. And it was like a Dollar Tree chakra candle, but
I love it. It still means something.
Right. So I actually heard about something I know you would be interested in. Well, we both would be in.
Tell me.
So there was another Bigfoot sighting and there's actually video you can watch.
What?
It's nothing like the Patterson footage, which is like an up close female Bigfoot walking across for our viewers or listeners who might not know. But this sighting happened in Utah and it was from a really big distance. So let me pull up the article because I want to share this with you. So let's see. It said it was in Lone Peak and it was 25 miles north of Provo, Utah. And so you can see this little Bigfoot. He's like walking up a mountain. And apparently, like, they're saying the scale at which he's standing at next to the environment is really, really tall. And the height that he's hiking at, a human wouldn't be able to go, like, that quickly up the hill.
Well, I'm trying to watch the video now, so...
Okay, so if you go to, like, the 3-minute 250, it'll start popping up a little bit after that. Okay, so we're watching a video now. You can see in the distance, in a snowy, like, terrain... There is just a figure.
But it's snowing too?
Yes. And he's like walking up the hill. And the camera's shaky because it's cell phone. And so they're zooming in and you can just see this thing's got huge limbs. And all it is a silhouette, but it's walking up this mountain.
He looks like he's charging up the mountain.
Super fast.
It doesn't even look like he's wearing a coat or anything.
Not at all.
Oh, I wish it wasn't so shaky. Oh, they're going to slow it down.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I don't know.
What do you think?
Is it? Oh my gosh, I don't know. I can see the tree off in the distance about how tall he would be. He would be like half the size of the tree.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty tall. Like if it were a human, he would look so much smaller.
Yeah.
That could be, I don't know. That could be it. That could totally
So
be.
they're thinking the creature in the video was about 8,600 feet in elevation. Mm-hmm. And that this video was shot through his spotting scope, which has a zoom, like a crazy zoom. It's like a giant binocular. So it's like 10 by 60 zoom.
Dang, I want to go find Bigfoot right now.
They think he's about 8 feet tall. And the way that its arms are hanging to about its knees, I kind of saw that. Like, it had giant freaking arms.
Yeah, big freaking arms. It looked like big hands. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, unless he were a giant Scandinavian football player or basketball player or something, which is highly unlikely.
Yeah, I found the link on mysteriousuniverse.org, and their video's also on YouTube. You can link it below, and I can post some pictures even on like our Instagram account.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting, and people are constantly saying, "Well, where's your footage? Where's your proof?" So if there's video, I'm gonna go watch it.
Right.
You know, it is too far away for me to tell, but I think it's kind of interesting. I like it.
It is. Oh my gosh, thanks for sharing that. It's so cool.
Yeah, no problem. I'm always interested in like the weird news of the week. Did you have any personal experiences or anything that you found interesting?
I did see something this week on the news, kind of. There's these things going around, and I'm just now finding it out, so I'm sorry if this is an old one, but there's this dude who's been around for about a year or so called Noah, and he's supposedly a time traveler. So there's all these YouTube videos of him showing stuff like, I don't know. I didn't watch all of the videos, but it just keeps popping up on my newsfeed that he's from like the year 2028, and he came back. He said that it's common for people to time travel, but for some reason the machine that he had wouldn't allow him to go back. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? So basically time travel's okay in the future. Why would we allow that to happen? But he basically was saying that he knows that in his time period, the president will be Martin Luther King Jr.'s granddaughter, and that she's like the first president who, I don't know, she's trying to bring a lot of peace and harmony into the world, and she abolishes a lot of the things that some of the other presidents have done along the way to bring our world backwards.
I'm reading one that says that he predicted that North Korea in the next year will be plugged into computers just like the Matrix movies.
Right, which I can kind of believe that because I've read a lot of scientific articles that they're steps away from being able to do that. And in fact, that's why people have those robotic arms. It's the same kind of thing.
I mean, the amount of control that they have over people just in general with computers and social media. Mm-hmm. I mean, everything in our life is run by computers.
Right. He said that pretty soon we're supposed to have, he said, according to books that he read in history from his time period, he said that he read we should be getting an influx of sightings of UFOs because aliens are going to visit soon and they're going to make themselves known to us.
I've heard that too.
Yeah. I was like, I hope that's not fake. You know, I've been telling my kids that by 2020 we would know that aliens were real for a long time. I've been saying that. So
2020 is the year.
Yeah, I guess I thought 2020 would be the year for some reason. This was years ago. I said this when they were really little. I was like, by 2020, you're going to know that aliens are real. And I'm not just making it up.
They're just like, hey, Mom.
Right.
I mean, I was reading an article earlier this week that was just the argument of the zoo theory, that we're like in an alien zoo. And I think this came around in like maybe the 70s. I don't know, because they basically don't want humans interacting with the rest of the universe, and they just like keeping us here out of everyone's way.
I guess. I mean, if they're the ones who created us and put us here, we could be like animals in a zoo.
Yeah. I mean, I guess when you think zoo, it's almost like they're watching us like they are the watchers.
Well, they could be. We don't know. The world is such a weird, crazy place, and we don't know. We only know what's in our scope of vision. We don't know the whole picture.
Right.
So it's hard to say. Who knows? Very interesting theory.
Yeah. Any paranormal events happened to you lately?
Not this week. Not really. I saw that UFO last week. This week it was kind of quiet. I had just a few ghost situations happen, just basically feeling spirits.
Feeling energy?
Yeah, feeling energy. But other than that, not much. What about you?
Same.
Yeah.
Like, I still have never seen any entities. I'm just trying to get used to, like, feeling the energy of a space. And it's almost like, what is a ghost, you know? And if it is just energy, is it just some sort of all-encompassing kind of force-type energy, you know?
Right.
Like, if a feeling is just enough to give you a weird vibe in a room and it's not really an actual human who passed away.
Yeah, it could be just I don't know, it could be anything. It could even be your spirit guides. That's one thing since I'm trying to live a more balanced life, I'm also trying to get to know my spirit guides a little more. And my daughter said something interesting to me this week, because I was like, yeah, I'm going to really work on getting to know my spirit guides. And she said, you probably already know them. You're just not aware of it.
Yeah, they're always there.
Right. And so since I'm kind of I don't know, since I have all of these abilities and stuff, maybe I'm already connected to them. I just don't know them by name or what they look like. But I guess I could say I know how they feel, and I think I have 3 of them.
I kind of feel the same. Like, there might be 3 or 4 different types of spirit guides I have, including, like, my higher self, you know, our aunt who passed on, and maybe, like, a spirit animal, and maybe even just, like, an entity, you know, like some sort of unknown that I'm not sure who they are. But lately, when I've been, like, trying to really channel myself, and if I'm in a moment of uncertainty, or I'm just trying to focus and clear the energy, I can kind of, like, exhale, and I get these shivers from the crown of my head down through my shoulders. And I'm like, I'm connected. I am fine. They are here. They've got me. And I just am able to keep going no matter what it is, feeling like they're there.
Mm-hmm. That's the same kind of energy that I get when I'm about ready to astral project.
Ooh, little shakes.
Yeah, like I feel it from my crown all the way to my feet. So the only time it's unnerving is if it's the middle of the day and I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, not now, not now. I'm busy.
Yeah. Have you had any other astral projection happen this week?
Not this week.
Okay.
Not that I am aware of. I think I've just been so tired. Yeah, I've been really grounded and really like living my best life every single day. So because of that, I don't have as much time to really think about all the other stuff. But at the same time, I'm still growing. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Maybe next week. Maybe next week.
It's probably not a bad thing because, I mean, that was happening to you last week in the middle of the office, so.
Yes. Yeah, and it was like I was just getting it at random times. Just not just at work, but like at home. And I'm like, no, not now. Why is my spirit wanting to leave now? So
yeah,
we'll see. Maybe I'll have some ghost things. I got this really cool thing for my birthday, the psychic circle.
Oh, I didn't know you got it.
Yes, I got that, but I haven't been able to use it. So I'm hoping.
Yes. Explain to, I guess, our
try.
Listeners what that is.
Yeah. So the psychic circle, I did read the book that came with it, but it's kind of like a Ouija board, but different than a Ouija board. It just kind of makes the Ouija board seem archaic compared to this because it's got a huge, it's like a normal board that you would get for any sort of board game, but then it has circles, and in each circle that's printed onto the board, it's different things. There's symbols, there's months, there's certain specific words. So you're not just getting the alphabet. It also has alphabet and numbers, kind of has everything in there.
Yeah.
And they kind of give you a really good guide of how to use it and who you should use it with.
Let me know, because I'm looking at the board now and I can see they have like the astrological houses. They've got a row of numbers, chakra colors, they have symbols, and then they have like different words like hello, go, other, yes, take, maybe, give, no, close, stop, old, near, goodbye. So like, and even the cardinal directions. So this, it looks so peaceful and zen-like. It doesn't look like you could take this as demonic.
Yeah, it's very wonderful. It's such a great looking board. They advise that you have potentially 3 people using it so that I should say 3 people there. Each person asks a specific amount of questions, so you don't get to ask more than 3 questions per person per session. And you're allowing yourself up to an hour or 2 to actually use the board so that the spirits have time to respond to you.
Wow. That's in the instruction booklet?
Yes, and they tell you that one person should be, you should be recording it, and one person at the time should be writing things down as well. So you should be recording, writing, and using the board. It's like full in, like you have to be all in and committed to use it. So I just haven't had time, but I'm hoping.
Dude, I wish we could do that right now.
I know, right?
That sounds really, really cool. Because that's something that I think the Ouija board lacks, is a good instruction manual that doesn't come with one. And there's no encouragement of like taking your time or spending hours or only limiting yourself to several questions, because that sounds really freaking realistic.
Exactly. Yeah, they said, just how would you feel if somebody was asking you 100 questions and not giving you enough time to answer?
Right, and trying to cross crazy levels. And with the Ouija board, I can go back to back asking crazy questions and complicated questions, and it's draining to myself.
Right. They also said to pre-write your questions out.
That's so smart. I really want to get one now.
Yeah, I'm so excited to use it, but I haven't really had time.
And this board, when is it from? Like the 80s and the 90s?
I think it's from the 2000s.
Oh, okay, so it's a little newer, and it's like on Amazon.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you can get it on Amazon. I think I spent like $17 for it, and I have Prime, so I had free shipping.
Dude, I want to play with it. And it looks like it comes with cards, or no?
I can't remember if it comes with cards. It did have a really cool planchette. It's like a purple color, or maybe it was yellow. I think it's yellow. I only got to bring it out once.
Dang.
But it's a much larger planchette, and you can actually see into the center of it. So it magnifies. It's kind of like a magnifier. So whatever it lands on, you'll be able to get a clear view of what it is.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear you. As soon as you use that thing, let us know.
Yeah, I will. And then if you when you ever get to visit, or if I visit you, I'll bring it.
Yes, deal. Because that's something we could both definitely get into for an hour or 3.
Oh yeah. I could see us just like, somebody comes in, one of our cousins or whatever. Are you guys ever going to go to bed?
Yeah.
No, we've been out this for 6 hours. We got to keep going.
It's just us around a table. Jenga.
Afterwards, just devouring tacos because we're so hungry.
Perfect. It's a date. Well, what do you think? Should we move on to our cauldron topics today?
I think so. It's time for cauldron topics. Yay!
Woo! So today for Cauldron Topics, we wanted another reason to discuss a few of our favorite witchy films and discuss the magic that they used. So without further ado, let's discuss The Craft.
Woohoo! Okay, so tell me, what is your favorite thing about The Craft? What do you, or I guess what's your favorite scene maybe?
The magic scenes get me hyped, and probably the beach magic scene when they're like calling the quarters, I would have to say. But anytime they're having a fun time doing magic, I am captivated by.
Absolutely. Oh, in that one for me, the beach scene is one of my favorites, but also the one where they're in the room doing light as a feather, stiff as a board. I like that because it's just that bond between girls.
Yeah.
Or friends, I should say, not just girls, but
yeah. I feel like, just for people who maybe haven't seen the movie, we should kind of describe it a little bit. But obviously, The Craft is about these high school girls who are kind of considered like outcasts, maybe, and not really fitting in socially. And so our main character, Sarah, when she kind of joins the crew, she is like a natural witch. And she seems to already have like this gift, like maybe passed down from her mother, who they say passed away, I think maybe at birth. And so I was kind of wondering if you thought Sarah was like a hereditary witch.
Yeah, I think that's what they're saying when she got the magic from her mom. And I thought that they said that her grandmother also had it.
Oh, they did? That's awesome.
I think so.
Yeah.
Or maybe I just assumed that. I don't know which is
Right,
which.
because I did just watch this like last week, and there is like there's a few moments like, well, she'll look at her mom's picture and it's like Harry Potter style, like things are moving, and she'll hear her like mom's voice like telling her it's going to be okay and you're empowered and things like that. So I really thought it was such a shame that she didn't get to know her mother and like learn from her.
Right. Maybe you should tell the 4 girls' names.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know them by heart, but if you could tell the 4 main characters.
Yes, so when she meets the other witchy girls, there's Nancy, and there is, she's the main character. She's kind of the spitfire, kind of bitch of the group.
And crazy.
Yeah. And then we have Bonnie. She's kind of like the shy girl. She has like burns on her back for some reason, and it makes her just really closed off. And then what is the third girl's name? Rachel?
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
I'm gonna look it up because
for me, I feel like she's vapid and she really cares about her status and she cares about what she looks like.
So, and then we have Rochelle. So
is.
Rochelle, she's got like beautiful curly hair, which she gets made fun of for having in the movie because she's African American, and so she does have to deal with like a beautiful blonde racist girl kind of coming at her throughout her story. And I really always loved her. Personally, I never really looked at her as vapid. I just looked at her as someone who was kind of like sweet and putting up with a lot of like resistance her life. So I don't know. Did you think because she was doing like the hair magic that she was vapid?
I just think that she wanted to fit in so bad, not because of them making fun of her, but she wanted to be one of them. So it made me think that she only cared about her appearance rather than who she was.
Right.
Which could be said kind of about her and Bonnie in a way, because Bonnie, at one point in the movie, I mean, I'm going to just say it. I mean, this movie's been out since the 90s, so this is not really a spoiler. If you haven't watched this movie, then you should have already seen it, I'm sure. But there's a part where Bonnie's scars go away, which we'll talk about later, I think. Do we have that on the list of things to talk
maybe
about?
we should just talk about they do a ritual in the woods in the movie, and so they do address those things. Like she asks for those scars, I think, to be gone. Right.
She's all Minot, take my scars away, take my scars. And then when the scars are gone, she becomes this totally different person. She starts dressing differently, acting differently. It's like she lost who she really was.
Yeah. Okay, I was talking about Rochelle. You were talking about Nancy.
I was talking about Bonnie.
Oh, Bonnie. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm getting them all confused. I thought you were saying
okay.
Rochelle was vapid. I was like, I never saw that.
No. Bonnie's Bonnie's scars were taken away, and so then she started acting differently.
I kind of see Bonnie as basically two polar opposites. Like in the beginning of the film, she's always hunched over. She's got her hoodies on. Her hair's in her face. She can't really look people in the eye. And then through magic and this friendship, she finds that confidence. And like when she gets no scars, she like freaking has that moment where she's late to class. She's storming in all sexy as hell in her little Catholic uniform. And like sassily like sitting down and be like, hey, what's up? And like from then on out, she's like telling guys they've got a nice ass and they're so hot. And she's just like really, she does become a little too far into it, but it's almost like understandable because these kids are like high schooler idiots who are going through crazy extremes.
That's true.
But she didn't seem to really know who she was yet as a person, and this is part of her exploration.
Right.
But I gotta say that ritual in the woods was kind of a beautiful moment because they're just taking a bus to walk out really far and go sit in nature and like bond and talk about their problems and what they want to improve upon, and they try to connect with like their god, which they call Minot. And one thing that I find interesting about Minot is like he's not even technically a real god, really. They had this Wiccan priestess who was like on set to help them with the magic side of things, and she was like, I don't want these girls praying to a real god, so I'm going to give them a fake one, because she took it very seriously. So she's like, Minot cannot be real. So that's who they pray to in the craft. And like, so when they start to like pray for him, they just start seeing all these butterflies coming out, and they feel like so touched and like enlightened. And to me, that's what magic is. It's like being out and just listening to the signs around you and the nature, you know?
Right. And they were all kind of crying at the end afterwards, right? Because it was so touching when the butterflies came.
They're like, he's listening, like we connected.
Right. And they felt his power. So just to kind of play this other side to it. Even though Minot wasn't real, do you think so many girls from watching the movie or people from watching the movie have made Minot real?
I know someone who I told that fact to, and they were crushed because they're like, I've been praying to Minot. What do you mean? And I was like, oh shit, I'm sorry. I just like told you God or Santa wasn't real, and now what have I done?
Right.
So.
But now is he?
Exactly.
Is he?
That's that whole theory is like, oh, well, we created the devil because we believed in him.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So Minot could be real now.
He could be real now. He definitely could be. And at that ritual, too, they all asked for something, which was something I kind of thought was interesting. They called to their god Minot. They say that they drink to their sisters. And what is it? Nancy, she asks for power. So she's definitely really just kind of selfish.
She wants all the power. She said she wanted to take in all the power of Minot.
So I have to think about, like, where is she coming from? So she's coming from a place of, like, I guess a bad family situation. You see her stepdad like yelling at her mom and they fight and possibly abuse each other. And she has like no control there. She's got that hot guy at school, Skeet Ulrich, who slept with her and like gave her maybe a sexual disease, she said, and everyone makes fun of her. So she's craving some sort of power and control in her life. And I'd like to think that like if Nancy came around in the sequel or was like a real person, that she'd be grounded these days and that she'd be pretty cool.
That she grew from her
She's
experience.
no longer like what a teenager, you know?
Right. And you know what else she gets out of it from the spell when she starts gaining all of the power? Her stepdad, or was it her stepdad or her real dad? I can't remember.
I think it was a stepdad.
Okay, so he dies and leaves, and they get a whole bunch of insurance money. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then her mom just kind of starts blowing it as if it's always going to be there.
If you think about it, at the end of the movie, she's locked up and her rich mom probably is paying for that.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. She's locked up in a mental institution. So I'd like to think that hopefully she got the help that she needed.
Yeah. Let's hope.
And came out of it on top instead of still being locked in the institution.
I'd like to think so. We've done some episodes on mental institutions and their nefarious treatment, but in the 90s, she had a chance.
Right.
She had a chance.
That's true. That's true. Okay, what other spell do we want to talk about?
Well, on that same spell, we should talk about how Sarah asked for the dude character, Skeet Ulrich, I can't remember his freaking name in the movie, to like her. And so she does basically a love spell for herself. And she's like, I know it's stupid, but I want this guy to love me, even though they already know he's a jerk. And that really backfired on her, even though at first he's like carrying her books for her and it all's turning out great. And then the attention becomes too extreme to where he like tries to like, I think essentially rape her on the side of the road. Right.
And he just wants her too much. Mm-hmm. Like it's not just about love. He just wants her.
Mm-hmm. So like seeing how her spell was like, I think the main one that backfired, because the other three somehow got what they wanted, but it didn't backfire till later, which is interesting. I don't know if that's their selfishness or their corruption, because they kind of seemed more selfish in using Sarah and not really like about maybe being friends with her. I'm not sure.
I wonder if it made me think that there's rules behind personal gain.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. In the craft there is.
Yeah.
Like how Rochelle, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, just so each one had something, some sort of backfiring from what I can remember. So like Nancy, her backfire was at the end that she was put in the mental institution, right?
Yeah, exactly. And Sarah asks for that. She gets him going too far. Bonnie asks for her scars to be taken away. And really the only consequence that comes from that is she looks into a mirror and for a second she has scars all over her face.
Right.
So she gets off light. But, you know, maybe she deserves it. She wasn't that horrible of a person. But then Rochelle, she does...
Oh. No, I was just going to say, it made me think with Bonnie that maybe her scars were caused from something that had nothing to do with her, because she'd had them pretty much her whole life. So they were caused out of harm. So therefore, if she was asking for that harm to be gone, since she didn't cause it herself, that she got off lightly with the punishment, because it wasn't really meant to be for her to have those scars.
Right. Like it kind of seemed like she's suffered enough, perhaps, and that magic wasn't that selfish. And then, like, with Rochelle, it's the same situation, because she did a magic to try to, like, get the popular racist girl away from her, basically, I think is what she said. And they end up going so far is that later in the movie, Sarah grabs like a lock of her hair and pulls it out, and they do a braid spell in Rochelle's hair and like to try to like solidify that. And so that blonde girl, I think because she made fun of, it's a separate spell, it's because she made fun of Rochelle's hair and called it like, it's your nappy hair. It's like one of her little nappy hairs. Yeah, all of her hair started falling out. So in ways, I guess it does come back to them all 3x3.
Right.
They also do like glamour magic, which in real life I find to be like, I just don't feel like it can work. So I don't think I could use it for myself. I don't have belief in it. But like Sarah's doing a spell to turn her eyes a different color and her hair a different color. And like on Pinterest all the time, I see like these witchy spells being recommended for me. Like change your eye color or lose weight. And what do you feel about glamour spells?
I don't know. I don't think that they're long lasting. I think they would be super temporary because they're so superficial. Mm-hmm. So I think that it wouldn't last very long. I don't know. What do you think?
I kind of feel like the same. Like, I think maybe just ask for self-love and take time to like do some magic as you do self-care routines. I feel like I can get down behind that. Like maybe as you moisturize, like say a little enchantment to feel your skin's better and that you're a happy glowing person kind of a thing, but not necessarily like I'm gonna lose 20 pounds.
Right. But I think that you can make yourself thinner. If you believe that you're thinner, other people will see you as thinner as well.
I've heard that if you just like let it go, you can lose all the weight. And I'm like, I would like to have that happen.
Right. Or maybe you're not really thinner. It's just how people see you.
What you perceive as your reality.
Yeah, exactly.
And so some of the other magic, we did talk about light as a feather. I never heard about light as a feather until really the craft. Was that just a
really?
Like, so what is it with that game and the origins of that slumber party game?
So I learned about this at summer camp. I did go to summer camp a couple of years. Summer church camp, mind you. So it was a Lutheran church camp. But light as a feather it's kind of like that thing. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, like a strengthening bond between other people. So basically...
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Trust exercise.
Yeah. A trust exercise. So if you were to fall backwards, somebody would catch you. Light as a feather is the same thing. So, you know what? Maybe it wasn't just church camp. I seem to remember. Do you remember several episodes back? I think it was our Samhain episode. I talked about doing the Ouija board with my friends, and we called the devil.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, that same night we did light as a feather.
Oh, yeah.
So we lit the candles and put them all around us. Little 6, 7, 8-year-olds.
You guys knew how to party.
We totally did. So one of the girls, the birthday girl, she laid on the ground and we put our fingers under her and we were like, light as a feather, stiff as a board. And I kept saying, you're just too heavy. You're too heavy. She's like, you're not believing enough.
Dang. She called you out.
She called me out. And then when we did it at summer camp, it was part of the exercises, the trust exercises. So we did it in broad daylight.
That is so weird. And you said light as a feather?
Weird? And said light as a feather, stiff as a board.
But no one ever levitated, right?
Nobody ever levitated. It was just a matter of trust. Actually, I take that back. I do remember another team was like, she's actually levitating. But she was like so not very far off the ground. Like literally maybe an inch off the ground.
Do you believe it? Did you see it?
I didn't see it, but they were saying it, and I was laying down at the time, being the one that they were trying to levitate off the ground. So I don't know.
I like to think that you would have just like levitated super high above everybody.
I don't know. Maybe I did. I just blocked it out.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I never
I'm surprised that I'm surprised that you'd never heard of it before.
Yeah, I never played that one. Oh, the only thing we did at our slumber parties was like pranks.
Oh,
We didn't do
like
magic.
the bra and the bra and the freezer.
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, I hated that one too. I'd rather play light as a feather.
So the other main spell that we kind of briefly mentioned was the beach scene when they're like calling the quarters on the beach. And I love everything about this sequence. Like, it starts off with all of the girls in wonderful 90s fashion, like all of their fashion I love. But they're coming out and they're each like holding an animal of some sort in a cage representing the element that they are. And so I think Nancy has snakes, and there's a butterfly and a bird and one other type of animal, maybe a tarantula.
I thought it was a bunny.
A bunny? Okay. Something. And then they're each standing at their like cardinal quarters with their arms like extended out in the air, and just such badasses with a fire pit on the beach. The waves are rolling in crazy. And then when you watch the behind the scenes on like a DVD, if you have it, they talk about how when they were doing that scene, like half of the girls are, I would say, skeptic, and half of them weren't. They'd be like, it was real, shit was happening, like the systems were malfunctioning, and our lights were breaking, and we felt like we called up all the water to come up, and it washed over everything, and we had to run. And like the girl who plays Sarah is very skeptic, and she's like, yeah, we're filming on the beach, it happens. And then like girls like Nancy and I want to say Rochelle, they were into it. And like Veruza Balk is her name, who plays Nancy. She's like became Wiccan, or was Wiccan at the time, and was like, no, we called something, I feel it, like this was legit. And she ended up even like pursuing Wicca for years after that, and had her own Wiccan shop in California.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so she was like super into it. Any of those scenes where she's like meditating at home, like in front of her mirror, like I feel like she's doing that from a place of like her own practice. Like she does that stuff, or did that stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. So I
Very
don't
cool.
know. I would love to think it was because they were invoking something, but of course you can say like on a practical side, well, it's the beach. Of course the water is going to rise.
Yeah, but I thought other things were happening, like the wind was picking up.
Yeah, like I think wind was picking up, and their equipment was malfunctioning. So it was just like a bunch of weird occurrences. And like you like to say, there are no coincidences.
That's right. No coincidences at all. It's all for a reason. So then in the movie, a big storm happens, and they all fall asleep on the beach.
Right? Which does not make sense, but okay.
Which does, yeah, I guess they were so tired after calling on all the corners. And then, and doing their spell, I guess. But then, what washes up? It was whales?
Like whales,
wash
sharks,
up?
yeah. Oh, I think a bunch of
They're
smaller
all dead?
things. Yes.
Yeah. All of them
And
were
Nancy's
dead.
walking on water like Jesus.
Yeah, she's walking on water.
She looks like a TLC music video.
She's like, I'm gonna chase all those waterfalls.
Yeah. And she's just super high on it. She's like something like, he's in me, or something weird. And from then on, I think her power trip starts to like kick in, because she's invoking the whole thing is they're invoking Minot into themselves, or right. And then she's just constantly using Minot after that. Like then she becomes this badass. Like she knows how to do every part of magic after she takes all of Minot in. Yes, like I love when they're driving around recklessly and she's using her magic to change the red lights to green lights.
Yes, that was pretty cool. I like to do that. I know that this sounds really crazy, but I will say that I feel like I may have been able to do something with traffic before. Like if I'm really stuck in a space, I will sometimes, if I've been waiting too long, I'll just put my hands up, kind of where not the palms are facing each other, but the other side where they're facing each other. And then I just do this motion where I'm like pushing all of the cars to stop from either side so that I can get out.
And does that work?
Yes.
You're just like Noah parting the seas.
I'm like, just make a space just for me. I've waited long enough.
You're basically Sarah. You're basically that. She's just like, sometimes I want it to rain, and so a pipe will burst in my room. Like, that's you.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh my gosh. Well, I love that you actually have experience doing a spell like that.
Yeah, I don't even I guess I just consider it a part of energy. Like I'm just moving energy to make it do what I want.
Okay,
like
living in the Matrix, Neo. Just moving shit.
I know. Like this one time. Okay, so we lived in this really big house, and on the top floor during the 4th of July, because we had windows almost in every area of the room except for one wall. And so if you were in this specific room, from every single window, you could see fireworks. And it had been a while since a firework had gone off this one 4th of July. And my son was like, oh, I wish they'd come. I was like, oh, it's going to happen. And then I did a countdown and I pointed to the sky and it happened.
Nice.
And so I'd like to say it was a coincidence, but I think it was me.
I know what you mean. And like the more, like, don't doubt yourself. Always trust yourself and keep believing in those coincidences. I feel like that does happen. Like lately, I'll just think something and then the next word out of that person's mouth is that thing. And just got to keep leaning into those and trust yourself. And I feel like you can make yourself kind of stronger. And then one day you too can move traffic. Like Wendy.
Just believe.
Yeah.
I'm still working on, levitating.
Light as a feather. Yeah, for some reason you couldn't do light as a feather like that other chick at your camp.
Okay, what other kind of magic? There was that binding spell that they did.
Yeah, so after Nancy gets aggressive and is like, after Sarah calls Nancy out for being too ridiculous with her magic and overusing it, they get like, you're all or nothing, get the hell out of our group then. And that's when she decides she has to bind Nancy from doing harm against herself or others. And I know you even did like a cauldron topic on binding magic. So we've covered binding magic in detail. Yeah. But it seems like it can be pretty powerful.
It can be, I think. And I try to stay away from that stuff, except for, remember I mentioned that when it comes to binding magic for marriage, I find that that's beautiful. So.
Oh, like hand fasting.
Yeah, like hand fasting.
Yes, when it's like a mutual ceremony. I love the idea of doing hand fastings still.
Yeah.
So.
I said that if you and Wayne ever wanted to do that, I'd be up for doing that for you guys.
Yes. Maybe, I don't know, appropriate time to do, what is it, a renewal, like when we're like old little people.
I think you can do it at like 10, 20, 30, those kind of, once you've been together a certain amount of time.
Okay, next year's our 10s, so we'll get to talking about that.
Yes, because they say that if you do it at the intervals of 10, then it wipes the slate clean of everything that happened prior and you can just move forward.
There we go. New life.
That's
new
right.
wife.
New
10
life.
years.
New life, new wife. Okay, I think there was one more magical scene in the craft, right?
I included, I feel like the battle that they do is movie magic, and this is where their magic gets very unrealistic, and they're just doing a lot of hardcore glamours. Maybe Wendy could do it, but they're just
I
doing
don't know about that.
They just throw each other across the room, and they're doing crazy glamours so that she sees bugs and spiders falling over her. She turns on the TV. She thinks her parents are dead in a car accident or airplane accident. So, like, Nancy's doing hardcore manipulation and, like, playing on her fears of Sarah losing her family. Sarah is really afraid of snakes. And they just try to, like, bring her down. They even are like, you're going to kill yourself tonight. Like, that's how fucked up they are. But, I don't know. Teenagers are assholes. I kind of think it's believable that when you're young and if you had a taste of power like witchcraft, you would do selfish magic. You would be assholes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they have so many emotions running through their body.
They're going through a lot of issues.
And they can use all that teenage angst to pull out whatever.
Yeah. So they decide to like try to basically turn on Sarah. They don't think they need her anymore because they have the power. And ultimately, I think that's when Sarah gets her power boost from her mom, and she ends up like taking Nancy down. And that's when Rochelle and Bonnie like look in their reflections and they see their magic backfiring on them. Like Rochelle's hair's falling out from doing her hair spell on the other girl, and then Bonnie's got her scars back. So they like leave Nancy all alone. And I don't remember exactly
they're caught up in themselves.
Yeah, right. They're not a good friend, I guess, or maybe they just realized that Nancy was going too far.
Right. Maybe they actually agreed with Sarah to begin with.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like that's kind of all of the main magic scenes in the craft.
Yeah, I think so too. And I know last week you talked about they're going to be making a second one.
Yeah. So what do we hope to see? I would love to see like maybe Nancy, any of these girls, if they were like wise witches who could somehow like help them. Like the new cast maybe, or I don't know, maybe it should just be all new kids.
And maybe bringing in, I don't know, it depends. I hope that they make it so that it's a totally relevant to this time period. Like the things that teenage kids go through now rather than what it was in the 90s. Because, back then all we had to worry about was whether a boy liked us. But I think now teenage problems are a lot different.
I'm sure social media changes things a lot for teenagers.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd like to see them do a spell to to ace a test or something like that so they can get into a good college.
Right? Be productive.
Yeah.
Well, we have, I think, just enough time. We can dive into our second, or I should say one of our other favorite witch movies, and kind of dive into practical magic and the spells they use.
Yes. You know what makes me excited about this episode the most for us is that we're talking about The Craft, which is your favorite movie, and Practical Magic, which is my favorite movie.
Yes. And like, there's such good stories. Like,
so good.
Practical Magic is a little more uplifting, I would say.
It is. Yeah, it's very positive. So basically the backstory, if you haven't seen it, which you should have because once again, this was in the 90s, but this backstory is that it's two sisters whose parents passed away when they were younger and they had to go live with their aunts who teach them magic, and they come from a long line of witches. So I would say that they have hereditary magic as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I mean, I just so relate to this movie, like the love between two sisters. They just really care about each other. They can feel each other's emotions when they're far apart from each other. Let's see what else. Basically, it's that Jillian and
Sally.
Jillian and Sally. So Jillian, she is kind of wild and she dates a lot of guys, and she meets this one guy. Oh,
Jimmy Angel.
Jimmy. Yeah, Jimmy Angelou. So he is not a good guy, and one night he hits her and Sally feels it. They were literally, like, Jillian, I think, was in Arizona, and Sally's over on the East Coast, and she feels it happening. So she flies out to go, or drives out, I can't remember which one. She goes over there to get her, and Jillian gets in the car, and then Jimmy somehow tricks her because she forgot her tiger's eye. So she goes to get her tiger's eye from the other car, and Jimmy tricks her into getting into the car by, what did he do? He, like, says he's going to hurt her.
Oh, like he ends up grabbing Sandra Bullock's or one of the characters by the neck and is just like manipulating them to, like, I have your sister back here. I'm going to hurt her. You better drive.
Right. And so they end up driving. Well, Sally gives him belladonna, which we've also talked about in our cryptid episode, cryptid plants, which belladonna can be a sedative, but it can also harm somebody if you give them too much, and they end up killing him. And so they have to try to bring him back to life.
And one thing worth noting is that Jillian knew he wasn't human. She's like, I don't know what he is. He has extra strength. He doesn't sleep, but he's not human. So even before all this went down, he had some sort of supernatural thing about him, and I don't think it was really ever explained what he was.
Right. Yeah, they don't ever really talk about it. Not even in the books. Mm-mm. Like, I didn't find that in the books.
No.
But so let's kind of go over, I guess, the magic. At the beginning, they talk about this thing called the Owen's Curse, which is any man who dares to love an Owen's woman dies a premature or an untimely death. And so basically it was because one of the great ancestors, she was kind of romancing other men, supposedly. I think that's always what I get out of it.
Yeah, I think it looked like it was like maybe Puritan times back in like Massachusetts. And there was an affair going on, and she was a witch, and she got hung for a witch, or maybe just like, yeah, she got hung for being a witch.
Yeah, but she ended up doing a spell so that she could cut the strap around her neck.
And then they just outcasted her.
Yeah, they outcast her onto an island where she then was pregnant with this man's child. And she ends up building a whole house, like the starting of the home that is handed down from generation to generation. She starts building that home with her own bare hands while she's pregnant. And then she says she's down in her pits of despair. She's all alone on this island and she's just crying, and she puts that curse out there into the universe to say, if any man dares to love any one of my children, he will go down. It's all the man's fault. Mm-hmm. So... oh, it always breaks my heart.
I know. And love is a big theme of the movie and book Practical Magic. And when they flash forward to the sisters' life, they go through their first scene when they're little kids and are moving into the aunt's house, and they're getting used to this new schedule where there's no rules. They can have chocolate cake for dinner. They can do whatever they want. And there's also magic involved. And so the aunts will perform magic for the people of the town if they come knocking and asking for it, even though they're outcasts and freaks and everyone looks down on them. when the sun goes down and they have a problem, they'll sneak in the Owens back door and like beg them for crazy ass help. And so they have a client and she's just like manic and upset and frantic and is just like, I need my husband back, or I want this guy back. And I think that she has to end up breaking a relationship, and it's some sort of triangle. And I can't remember if she's the lover or if she's the woman that he's supposed to be married to. But she's just like, I want him so bad, he can't stand it. And the ants are performing this spell, and they end up grabbing a white dove and stabbing it in the heart with a freaking needle. And it's a little jarring and scary. And like, I come from this background of in harm none, do what ye will. So it's interesting, the ants don't like really have those Wiccan magical beliefs whatsoever. They like think that something that great is going to take a sacrifice of this pure bird, and usually their spells have consequences, and they're definitely, that guy would probably love her in a zombie like way and it wouldn't be right,
Right, which in the book that's kind of what happens. So
yeah,
we don't really see too much about it in the movie, but
in the book, I don't think she was ever the same.
Oh, I remember. She ends up saying, I need him to stop. I need him to stop. I thought she comes back in the movie, make it stop. And they're like, oh, you chose this.
Right. Exactly. So their stuff has a consequence, and the two sisters that are like peeking down from the steps watching this, Sally, she immediately is like, I need to go do my own form of magic and find some control in this chaos, because what they did is creepy, and I don't want to ever be in love like those clients so bad that it hurts, so I've got to figure this out. And she tries to do a love spell to create this like unrealistic standards of men, and so she has this little like bowl of petals, and every time she thinks of a quality he'll have, she'll grab a petal and put it in a bowl. And to me, that's a beautiful sacrifice. Like, it's just a freaking rose petal that you're pulling down from one flower and moving on to the next. You're not killing a freaking bird. And her magic is so touching to me, and she'll think of things like he'll have one green eye, one blue eye, he'll know how to flip a pancake, his favorite shape will be a star. And she just thought of all these like cute, innocent, childlike qualities, and like lifts the bowl up into the sky, and the petals just fly up and out, and it's like tragic and sweet at the same time.
Right. But then later on in the movie, she says all those things again when she meets a sheriff that's coming to talk about Jimmy's death, and he has all of those qualities. And they show this kind of flashback of him on a horse, riding a horse backwards, and all the petals are falling down on him.
Yeah, and it's so cool.
So like he already existed. He already was out there in the universe, and those flowers found him.
So that's a sweet way of thinking about it, because she doesn't want to think that her magic made him and that her magic made him love her. That's a comforting thing to think, well, he already existed and her magic just went to go visit him maybe, and they were always meant to be together, because you don't want to think you're manipulating anybody.
Right, right. Exactly.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of manipulation in Sally's life. Like, when they flash forward and she's like in her 20s, Jillian is played by Nicole Kidman. She's the fiery one in that situation, and she ends up just having a wild life where she travels and finds Jimmy and gets into all this trouble. And then Sally's played by Sandra Bullock, and she's a little more grounded and, homebody. And so the ants are like, she needs to get the hell out of here. Let's do a magic spell for her to like go flirt with this guy in the market. And they don't ever tell her, but she ends up falling in love with this dude. They have 2 kids together, and before she can even like stop it, she sees signs of the Owens curse coming into their life by this beetle like approaching, and I just find that so terrifying. Like, she's so frantically trying to kill this beetle to save her husband.
Yeah. Oh, it is very terrifying. Like, she's ripping up the floorboards to try to find the beetle, and she just knows that it's going to happen. And it's kind of like intuitively she can almost see him and sense him walking down the street. Like, she literally fell so much in love with him.
Yeah, they were so happy.
They were so happy. And he is walking down the street, and then he almost gets pummeled by bicyclists, and she thinks it's over because she stops and doesn't feel, the beetle had stopped doing his little clicking or buzzing or whatever it is that beetle does. And so she thought it's over, but she didn't feel the loss of him. And then bam, a truck hits him, and she feels all that loss all at once.
Right. And so she's left with these 2 kids and a massive depression. She moves back in with the ants. And her really only, I think, motivation is when Jillian comes back and visits her, or they have each other, because she has to save Jillian from the whole Jimmy situation.
Yeah, the whole Jimmy. So let's talk about that magic that they used. So they did necromancy.
Dude, that is one of my favorite scenes of the movie. Is like,
why do you think that is?
The magic. That's like the only time in the whole movie they do what you would kind of consider like high magic. Like they get this badass book of shadows, there's a pentagram involved, and they're saying cool spells. And it's something before I was a witch, I was like, oh, what is this movie? Like, I need this. Like, it just like The Craft, like seeing that shit got me amped up as a young woman. And so like, I remember they kill him because he's being super, super abusive and with the belladonna or whatever. And then they're like, what do they decide, to bury him first, or they bury him and then they bring him back to life?
They wanted to bring him back first. So Jillian says, Jillian goes, Sally, I don't care what he is. He was already bad.
Yes, just bring him back.
Because Sally's like, he's going to come back dark and unnatural.
You're right.
And she's like, he already is dark and unnatural.
Yeah.
Who cares when he comes back?
They just didn't want to be murderers.
He's still alive.
Yes.
Yeah, they didn't want to be murderers.
That's right. And so they're flipping through this really intricate book of shadows that opens up 3 different ways, like going through the scariest like images they can find to find the necromancy spell. And they know that the aunts wouldn't approve. They know it's bad, but they're like, fuck it. So the spell is so fun. Like I don't think they look like the type that's done magic in years, especially together, but they still have like been raised in it. So they're making do with what they have, like we always talk about. So they need to like make a circle, like a pentagram on his chest with something white, and Jillian's like, here's some whipped cream. You know, it's just so cute.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, they're too scared to poke his eyeballs with a needle because that's shit their aunts would have definitely done. They poked that bird with a needle, but they didn't even have the heart to like stab Jimmy's eyes because it was so gross. I guess that's what it was. They were squeamish.
But he came back to life anyways without them even sticking him in the eyes like they were about to, but he was already there. Well, a part of him was already there.
Yes, and for those of you that don't know, like, this magic that we're talking about today isn't our show opening. You hear it all the time, whether you're aware of it or not.
Yes.
Yeah. It's...
Because it's...
What is it? White as light.
Where they say,
mighty hectate.
White as light.
Make it right.
Yeah. It's white as light, black as night, mighty hectate, make it right.
Yes. And it's a badass spell, and it's just so cool. They end up bringing him back. He's super creepy and weird. It's like he's on this loop, almost, of, like, quoting weird TV shows and things.
Yes.
And so they kill him immediately and then bury him in the backyard.
Yeah, where after they bury him, a bunch of shit grows out of the ground. That it's winter, and there's all of these roses growing.
Which is, like, a weird telltale sign, like... The signs of the necromancy magic backfiring are really heavy. So they have all those flowers blooming. You have the girls looking out of the flowers and seeing apparitions of a man. There's a frog that's like just hopping around the yard, and he throws up Jimmy's ring. And then it just starts to escalate. There's one night when the aunts are there, both the sisters are there, and they wake up and they're making like
midnight margaritas.
Yeah, midnight margaritas. It's like the funnest scene ever.
It's my favorite.
Yes.
It's my favorite
That is
scene.
definitely super cute. And it starts off really happy. They're dancing. They're having great bonding time. And then they're drinking. All of a sudden, they just have Jimmy's liquor bottle in their hand from the previous scene. And they start getting really toxic and calling each other names. And that's just another sign.
Right.
And they answer on to them at that point. They're like, what the fuck did you guys do?
Right.
So I feel like that's when shit hits the fan in their magic, and that's their backfiring. Like, they fucked with the laws of magic too much. They did bring something back that was evil, and Jimmy was coming for revenge on Jillian.
He wanted to do something. So what did he do? He frickin' possesses her.
Right.
Just like any possessive boyfriend.
Oh yeah, to the extreme, toxic and just taking over her and controlling her, and he didn't even seem to love her or care about her at all.
He just wanted her like he was a toy or something that he could own and control. And even after death. Right.
And this whole time, like, they're dealing with being the Owens family and being outcast in the community, and the women in the school and the local businesses, they all kind of judge them and look at them weirdly. But they have this like tree circle thing with their school that the kids go to, and they're like, we need help from a bunch of women to do like an exorcism on Jillian. Let's just call the tree circle. This is for emergencies. Let's use it. And so it's the cutest thing ever, in my opinion. Like, all these little school moms come together, and they're just told, come to the Owens house and bring a broom. And everyone knows that they're witches, and they come and they're super excited. They're like, yes, we get to see what this house is like. And it's like so cute to me. One lady like comes with a vacuum, I think, or like a duster, dare duster, whatever they're called.
They tell all the ladies, bring your broom.
Yeah. It's like the cutest thing to see them all like connecting and coming together, and like women united can get rid of a man, you know? Like they can conquer love. And I just thought that was so cool. They have this badass exorcism scene, and that's probably the other best scene of magic in the whole movie.
There's this huge cauldron that they have that they've been cooking stuff all day in it. And it's kind of like this potion that they use to banish him from the house and banish him from ever coming back to Jillian. And so, oh man. So they sit in a circle. They've got all the brooms around, and they just call Jimmy out. Sally calls Jimmy out, and then he's fully taking on Jillian. And then they say this spell over and over again, and this big wind picks up. And then he jumps out of her body, and the second that he does, he's reduced to ash.
Yeah, they like,
I think they say something
your
like
blood,
ashes to ashes.
our blood, like something like that. They do like a little
Yes.
blood sister ritual. So in a case, I guess they
Right.
do a little bit of blood magic.
They do. You're right.
Yeah. Or do they just hold
That's the one
hands?
thing about the Owens family is they did a lot of darker magic than you would normally see.
And the craft.
And the craft. Yeah, these are some dark magics.
I think that's like the Hollywood take, because if you read the Practical
Right.
Magic book, there's not any magic in it.
No, not
Which
really.
it's really fun, and I love seeing it, and I'm thankful it's in the movies, but it's interesting. That's the route a lot of people think of magic, you know?
Mm-hmm. Like there was one part in Practical Magic where this little girl, she was so sick of being taunted by people that she points her finger and casts a curse and says, I hope you get chickenpox, and then he does. Mm-hmm. Like a full-on curse.
I like that scene.
Just from one word. And that's how curses work in real life.
Yeah, like that bad
You know,
juju.
basically you just have to think about it, and then there it is.
Mm-hmm. Definitely it sees like a law of attraction and manifestation. Like there's a lot of people are very superstitious, and I think that there's power to words and thoughts, so we can try to all use magic in a sense to mold our realities, you know, maybe not to the extent to these movies, but I think in subtle ways that over time become big deals and grow.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to talk about with this one? I didn't realize how long this episode's going. Sorry, guys.
No, I guess we can wrap up there. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed our little off-the-cuff discussion today. If there's a favorite witch movie you have or a scene, let us know. Any ideas on research topics, we are always down. And thanks for listening. Make sure you can join us next Wednesday when we're going to be talking about Beltane and mythical creatures. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and don't forget to check out our blog at cousinscoven.home.blog, where you can find witchy words of wisdoms, spells, and archive podcast episodes. So our current podcast episodes can be found on Podomatic, Spotify, iTunes, and anywhere else podcasts can be found. And send your cauldron topic ideas, questions, or your paranormal experiences into cousinscoven2@gmail.com.
May you find happiness in your heart, love for yourself, and join each other. Blessings to all.